Chapter 13, 1990 to 1999. After moving back from Hawaii, we returned to doing art shows every weekend and living in our camper in New Mexico. We earned plenty of money and paid off the credit card debt we'd accumulated in Hawaii. The kids loved camper living, and they adored the weekday adventures we had in between the weekend art shows. Many mornings, Brendan would awaken and ask where we were. We'd drive in the night while he and Alana slept. He'd pull back the curtain from the window next to his bed and try to figure out if we were at a state park, a campground, city, or beach. This happened so often that it became a game. "Where are we?" he asked one morning. "We're in Pittsburgh," Andy told him. "Where are we?" he asked another morning. "We're in South Carolina." Every day we'd make some jewelry and our kids would do some schoolwork. The homeschool books I'd read in Hawaii had given us confidence teaching our kids, and we'd purchased some fun and educational books for Brendan and some puzzles and toys for Alana. One of Brendan's favorite books at the time was called Math for Smarty Pants. Brendan had learned to read at age 4 and became a voracious reader by 6. Alana loved making food, and she and Brendan cooked and baked in our well-equipped camper kitchen. Andy taught our kids map skills as we drive from place to place. They loved navigating routes, and sometimes we'd even drive out of our way to explore something they'd found on the map. We discovered that waking up in new, unknown places helped our kids handle new situations with ease and allowed our family to be extremely close to each other. We defined home by who we were with more than where we were. Our family was shifting from the dreamy beach and ocean childhood life we had embraced in Hawaii to something that included all that, but also added a practical reality. From the beginning, Alana was a child who had a practical bent. At age 2.5, she helped keep our family on time. Brendan had an afternoon computer class, and when we'd pick him up, his teacher was always long-winded, and we'd often be late if we had something planned afterwards. I didn't have the ability or the heart to cut the teacher off, but Alana always piped up with something like, Mommy, we have to go now or we'll be late." I learned so much about timing, speaking up, and doing the right thing from Alana. That fall, we flew to England and traveled to Coventry to attend the wedding of Andy's dearest cousin's daughter. We all loved the British culture. When we returned home, I researched citizenship and discovered that our kids were eligible to be both British and U.S. citizens because Andy had remained a British citizen even after immigrating to the U.S. when he was 7. I immediately applied for their passports to facilitate more travel and the feeling of being home wherever we made it. "One can't have too many passports," Andy commented. We drove home after Thanksgiving, excited for a winter skiing in Taos. We bought a family ski pass. Our commitment to living harmoniously together inspired our winter plans. We knew we could live very inexpensively in our house truck and that we'd saved enough money to support our homeschool. I had a job as a massage therapist at a ski lodge and knew we could pay down our credit card debt over the winter with my earnings. Andy was exploring the idea of a grocery delivery business that would service all the visitors to Taos Ski Valley. He also started an evening kids program at the ski lodge, and he rose early to teach a yoga class in the morning for skiers. We were both trying every way we knew to make money. Our homeschool was becoming much more serious as Brendan's academic brilliance became apparent. We decided to move school to the Ski Mountain restaurant to have time every day for both studying and skiing. On Taos Mountain homeschool moving day, Brendan volunteered to carry the heaviest books. Alana tossed over 2 thick hardback textbooks and put notebooks, pencils, and a sharpener in her pack. "These are heavy," Andy called out while hauling our packs to the car. The lift operator teased us. "Are you going on an expedition?" Actually, we kind of are. Eventually, we made it to the Phoenix restaurant halfway up the mountain and got it all organized into the locker we had rented. Our Taos Ski Valley homeschool campus officially opened. Sometimes I wondered if our 2 dedicated hours, 4 days a week, could accomplish all the learning they needed to have. We spent those 2 hours completing pages in math books, writing assignments we chose together, and reading. We never gave them homework, but our kids spent many hours each day on projects they chose to do in subjects they were interested in. Do you think the kids are learning enough? I asked Andy. It's all an experiment, Andy answered. You and I went to public schools that took all our time, every day and night, and neither of us had a say about it. That was an experiment, too. We're giving our kids a very different kind of education, one that we guide and they direct according to their interests. I think it'll turn out well. Living our alternative lifestyle and successfully teaching our kids at home was a big confidence booster when Andy's illness came along and the mainstream template for Parkinson's treatment sounded horrible. After 5 years of homeschool and skiing, both kids wanted to try going to public school. There was a combined 3rd and 4th grade class that Alana could attend at the local public elementary school, but Brendan had a dilemma. In homeschool, he was only in the 9th grade, but his friends were in 10th grade, and he wanted to be with them. He was young for 10th, but he wanted to take the risk, and it paid off. He found passion in his biology class, and his teacher took him seriously. He realized his gift for understanding science. The winter passed, and we skied powder days and made a lot of new jewelry. We earned enough that winter to keep the creditors at bay, and as winter turned to spring, we were excited to get to Wisconsin and exhibit at a Renaissance festival. Brendan was sad, saying goodbye to his girlfriend for the summer. His high school year had been great, and his grades were all A's. He had a part in the yearly school theater production and was planning to have a role in the theatrical section of the Renaissance Faire. Alana had completed 4th grade and had auditioned and been accepted to the Chicago School of Ballet, which she would attend on weekdays all summer. We drove the camper across the Great Plains to Bristol, Wisconsin, which was in between Chicago and Milwaukee. The Bristol Renaissance Fair took place on a large swath of old farmland. We could imagine what a busy place it could become. Over to the other side, we noticed a camp set up with a large travel trailer and 2 huge gray elephants standing together while being hosed down by 2 young girls. We parked our RV in line with the other cars and walked toward the out-of-place-looking village. We came through a gate in a tall stockade fence into a bustle of activity. People of all shapes and sizes were at various states of working on the old-timey buildings, hauling loads, or greeting each other as friends reuniting. Some were half-dressed in costumes, including breeches and poofy sleeved shirts for the men, and long skirts, chemise tops, and corsets cut low enough to show lots of cleavage for the women. One of them approached us and said with a smile and a jiggle, "Good day, milady and my lord. You are looking lost. May I be of help?" We really had landed in a new place. We took part in this event for 5 summers. Our kids thrived socially, though we barely survived financially. We did buy our shop at the show as an investment we hoped would pay off. Andy renovated the upstairs of the A-frame house our shop was in, and we loved living there. Alana had a role acting in the Queen's Court, and Brendan was a Queen's Guard. They both wore full historical costumes for a couple of years there. Our hope that working the Renaissance Fair would be a good career move never materialized, and every fall we'd go home to Taos, a little bit discouraged. Back home in Taos, the daily chores of living in our house truck included sweeping, hauling 5-gallon jugs of water inside, hand-pumping drinking water through a filter, and keeping the outhouse swept and stocked with supplies. We all pitched in. "No wonder we fit in at the Renaissance Fair," Brendan joked. "We always live like we're from a different century." It was true. The freedom we have living this simple way is extraordinary, Andy reminded us. Other than the debt we accrued trying to keep our camper truck running and our bronze jewelry business viable, we had lived within our means. We never dreamed that our business would not pick back up after a couple bad financial years. When it didn't, we found ourselves in this vulnerable position. It seemed no matter how hard we tried to create jobs that gave us enough income, it never worked. We felt like target practice for the credit card companies. Unfortunately for them, they were not able to intrude very much on our simple life, and when we began to feel unfairly harassed, we started to stand up for ourselves. We always made payments towards the 18% interest we were being charged on our cards. We both worked multiple jobs in addition to keeping our bronze business going. I felt sorry for the people paid to call and harass us, but not as sorry as I felt for us. "I bought this book about going bankrupt," I told Andy. "Is that our best option?" he asked. "I called Cindy," I told him. She was a friend who had filed for bankruptcy years before. She recommended the book and gave me her lawyer's name. It's a way out of this mess and could give us a fresh start. I think we ought to look into it. We saw the lawyer the next week, and she told us our options in a non-judgmental and clear way. Your home, your vehicles, tools, and welding equipment are all exempt from being seized, she said. Your lifestyle choices have made what you own untouchable. For instance, if you had a car you were making payments on, or a house more conventional than a cabin on a truck bed, then there could be a possibility of seizure. As it is, your debt is directly related to your small business, and there is nothing eligible to be taken. We looked at each other and nodded. What she said makes sense. The interest you paid is criminal, she went on. They will keep profiting off you as long as you let them. I don't usually have clients where bankruptcy is such an obvious solution. Personal loans would be a different story, but you don't have any of those. It cost us about $1,000. The phone calls from collections stopped, and we kept on living and working just the same as we had before, only now we could save a bit of what we earned. We sold the troublesome RV for less than we bought it for. We moved forward without the burden of debt. In my mind, the idea of going bankrupt carried bad connotations, of being irresponsible. The reality was totally different. Instead of feeling like failures, we decided to accept that our business failed and leave it at that. We moved forward into a 5-year period of living in our house truck during the fall and winter months and moving to a treehouse home Andy had renovated at the Bristol Renaissance Fair in the summers. We skied a lot, homeschooled, and supported our kids' passionate interests. Alana's were in ballet, and Brendan's were in biology and Aikido. These were some of the most magical years of our lives, and it was during that time that I learned about focusing on gratitude. I received a gift from my mom that year. It was a book, blank inside, had a beautiful cover with a picture of a woman reading. I wanted to use it for something special. Another friend had given me a book with daily inspirational readings. One of the first entries suggested making a gratitude journal. Every day for a year, I was challenged to write 5 things I felt grateful for. That turned out to be the first of many gratitude journals I have kept. I've learned so much from participating in that exercise. I discovered that when I consciously felt gratitude, then there was no room for fear. Choosing to feel grateful was a way to become fearless. Of course, fear still surfaced occasionally, but I found there was always a path to a happier, more empowered place. It was a powerful mind medicine. We continued our skiing and homeschool in the winter, and Brendan's education was enhanced by taking several classes at Taos High School, where he'd aced 10th grade the year before. His friends were incredulous that he chose to go to school when he didn't have to. They can't understand, Brendan told us. Being forced to go to school sort of wrecks the love of learning. I still love to learn. Each year we communicated with the school administration to find a way around their rules so he could attend these classes. Brendan chose to take 2 early morning classes, AP Biology and AP Physics. He was finished every day by 9:30 in the morning and went to his car and drove home. The guard at the parking lot exit let him leave, but told him he needed a pass to do so. So I went to the school and had a meeting with one of the administrators. Your son is not allowed on school grounds unless he is fully enrolled because of insurance liability, she told me. Okay, we can fully enroll him, but he will only attend the first 2 morning classes, I said. Then he will fail all the other classes, she warned. Being fully enrolled will cover the school's liability, and he will let the teachers know so they aren't worried about his attendance, I countered. This is not at all okay, Mrs. Heath. Brendan will not graduate from high school and will not be able to go to college, she stated. In addition, he will not be allowed to leave the school grounds early unless he has a doctor's appointment or another valid reason. I admired her dedication to the students, and I felt a little bad because she had inadvertently given me the information I needed for Brendan to leave school grounds. I was about to be kind and share some information about our situation until she continued, if Brendan comes to school and is not fully enrolled, we will call the police to remove him from the classroom. My mind whizzed along in a bit of shock at her statement, and I pictured headlines in our local newspaper, child arrested for attending biology and physics classes in high school. Even so, I decided to be nice. I told her, We don't need a diploma or a transcript with grades from Taos High School because we will be using our homeschool transcripts when Brendan applies to college. He only needs to have the knowledge from learning in the classes here, and the law says he is allowed to do this. It's not commonly known, but a high school diploma is not required to attend most colleges, although you do need the knowledge that having a high school diploma usually represents. She looked shocked. I continued, let's enroll Brendan full-time and we'll figure it out. She relaxed and we enrolled him in 5 or 6 classes before we left her office. Our next stop was the nurse's office, where we had an easier time. My son Brendan is enrolled here at school, and he has a health issue that requires an appointment every day this semester. He needs to leave the school grounds after his second class ends at 9:30 a.m. Okay, she smiled nicely. Here's a month of passes. I'll sign them all and you can fill them out each day. Wonderful, I replied. Thank you. After a few weeks of Brendan leaving school every morning, the guard at the exit got the idea, stopped asking for passes, and we were free to continue our family skiing and dedicated homeschool time. Brendan went to each class he was enrolled in, and explained what was going on to the teachers so they wouldn't be concerned or confused. He passed the AP tests at the end of the year with high scores, and we used those for college application. These types of created responses to mainstream education challenges we were faced with modeled exactly what we would need to do later when facing Andy's Parkinson's diagnosis. We loved being at the Renaissance Fair, but we knew that our 5th summer participating would be our last. Brendan was no longer acting as a Queen's Guard. We had met a young woman through Ballet Chicago where Alana trained, who is a bit older than Brendan. She had been homeschooled and was a science prodigy. Reba introduced Brendan to one of her mentors, a science researcher at the University of Chicago. At 16, he became the youngest intern working on breast cancer research in a lab with graduate students. Brendan lived weekdays with my parents. He'd return to us on the weekends, and we witnessed him changing from boy to man. Alana was not acting in the Queen's Court anymore either. At almost 12, her ballet training had become more intense. She used her weekends to recover and hang out with Renaissance Faire friends who had grown up with her over the past 4 summers. Andy and I left the fair for 1 week every year to sell our work in the Ann Arbor Art Fair in Michigan. We earned more money in that 4-day show than in the entire summer at the Renaissance Fair, which showed us that the Renaissance Fair audience were not our best customers. Our bankruptcy had given us the fresh start we needed, and our kids were thriving in their own lives. It was time to put our Renaissance Fair shop up for sale and move home for Brendan's last year before college.